The next set of questions are from Robert RuneScape, and Robert RuneScape has a couple of these for me, so bear with me here. Do you think that we are going to leave the PG era sometime in the future? Well, that's a pretty open-ended question there, dude. Wrestling eras, as you want to call it, they come and they go. I mean, it only makes sense that this PG shit is just going to burn itself out sooner or later. I'm guessing personally that it takes another 2 to 3 years before they really, take it in a new direction. Like probably after WrestleMania 30. I have nothing factual to base that off of. It's all opinion and gut feeling. But until Linda McMahon either fulfills her Senate destiny or whatever, or they just give up with that altogether, or until the company just does poorly on a consistent basis to where they have to shake it up somehow, or until a lot of old guys are just forced to retire and they need to start building newer stars, that we see this kind of shift in direction. It was a, it's a decent, fair question, but it's too open ended. Like, of course, it's gonna go at some point. We're not gonna be stuck with this forever. Don't worry about it. Don't get offended. Um, people were kind of shocked when the Attitude Era happened, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's going to kill the business." And a lot of the older guys weren't a fan of all the chairs and tables and weird shit and Rob Van Dam and killing each other and tax and different shit involved in matches and hardcore rules and all that. But it really helped to breathe life into something that needed it. So no matter how you feel, wrestling always has these hills and these valleys and different times that it goes through. Like if you look at the earlier 90s, like 92, 93, even 94, WWF was kind of hurting. And it wasn't until 95 when Hogan joined WCW that things really started to change. The ball got rolling and the Monday Night Wars were brewing. So we have periods of stale and we have periods of awesome. And right now we just happen to be in a little bit of a recession. Wow, I spent way too much time on that one. What is your favorite pay-per-view of all time? This is a really tough call. So I'm going to answer this with 3 different answers. I think that's the most fair that I can be. To just say that one pay-per-view out of every event that I've ever seen from wrestling is really unfair, because I've seen a lot of good wrestling. So top 3 that just I can recall from memory would be WrestleMania 7, Bash at the Beach 1996, NWO, and WrestleMania 19, Rock versus Austin. Awesome. Next question from Robert RuneScape is, what do you think is the greatest rivalry of all time? And Robert RuneScape here, he says that I say Austin versus Rock, so you can't pick that. So I wouldn't have picked that anyway, just because it was so brief. And if we're gonna go all time, I want to put this out there as honorable mention, because like I really loved Jericho versus Dean Malenko, and I think that obviously that's not my number one answer, but I really wanted to throw it out there. And for anybody that doesn't know the history behind these two guys hooking it up in WCW, it was fucking amazing. I watched the whole thing unfold. It was right around the time when I was really hardcore, super duper wrestling fan and old enough to appreciate it for what it was. And those two put on some really effing good matches, like hands down. Something that you're never going to top, though, is the rivalry that Macho Man had with Hulk Hogan. And at WrestleMania 5, like, they built this whole main event around Macho Man versus Hogan, and they made it last like the whole year, from when he won the title at WrestleMania 4 to when he dropped it to Hogan at WrestleMania 5. It's centered around those two. And from then on, they were always at each other's throat in the title scene against each other, or Macho was following Hogan around a little bit in the NWO, but then they split into the Wolfpack, and it's really hard to top that because for so many years they were the guys that you associated with professional wrestling. Like, if you look at the Golden Age, you look at Andre the Giant, you look at Macho Man Randy Savage, you look at Hulk Hogan, and I don't even know. I'm sure you could put another face up there, probably Vince McMahon, and those were like the guys that carried wrestling, carried the banner. One of the other rivalries that you could try to compare to that would be Triple H versus Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. But in that respect, they were friends, and they were friends before they were ever enemies. And the Savage Hogan thing, all they were was competitors. They just let it all hang out in the ring, like no matter what they were doing. They were always in competition with each other. They were not best of friends. It, can go on record to say that they were just professional in their dealings with each other. They were not friendly with each other. No matter what Hogan says, they might have high-fived each other a lot or hung out on the beach a little bit, but they were never best buddies. And his last question is, how do I remember so much stuff about wrestling? I'm a nerd, but that's really not the answer. Pretty much I live, breathe, eat, drink, and absorb wrestling. I've watched a lot of wrestling. Lots and lots of wrestling. And I've rewatched a lot of wrestling. And, there's been many a night when I'm just on YouTube, just nerding right out, and watching the formation of the NWO again and again and again, just because it brings back chills, and I go back and watch old matches, and, I compare it to what we have today. And, I watch everybody else's reviews, and I watch, all the wrestling that there is to watch out there on YouTube, and I'm very thankful for it. It's just my passion, man. And when you like something as much as I do, you spend a lot of time with it. So that's my questions from Robert RuneScape. My last couple of questions come from the British Fist, and they really helped me put this Q&A together in the first place. They kind of promoted this video out there for you guys to submit your questions, so I really appreciate that. NJ, Mr. Parkin, thank you so much. This one's for you two brothers. What matches do I see happening at Survivor Series? Before I get into everything that I just wrote down, I want to say that it's a little early to call that right now. So this is just shit that came up off the top of my head of what I think they're going to do. I can be entirely wrong, or I could be, right on track. But we're not going to know that until we get closer. And probably until we close Vengeance out will we actually get, closer to the real card. So I'm pretty sure in some capacity we're going to get Dolph Ziggler and Jack Swagger against Air Boom for the tag titles at Survivor Series. I see that happening. We might even get that at Vengeance. Who the hell knows? But and they may or may not throw some other teams into that for the maybe like a Four Corners tag match. And I figured if they did that, they'd probably have to use the Usos. But it's WWE. Who the fuck knows what they're really gonna do? And it's kind of early to say who's gonna be the heel team for the main event, but I mean, you're pretty much sure that you're going to see R-Truth and Miz on that team at this point. And I said that you might possibly get a Mark Henry sighting, and you might get a Wade Barrett in there just as a strong heel. But the face team, it's really obvious that it's going to be Cena, Punk, Triple H, Sheamus, and The Rock. There's no two ways about it. And hopefully at Survivor Series, they'll continue the Orton and Rhodes feud. Other than that, I don't have any fucking idea what they're going to do. And I don't think anybody else does either. And next question is, who do you think could possibly win the Royal Rumble? And who would make the most sense to win it? sense is something that you really have to take with a grain of salt when it comes to WWE, because to me it hasn't made sense in fucking months. But it wouldn't surprise me if somehow Cena ended up with the title and Rock comes back to win the Royal Rumble. And does their match need to be about the strap? No. Do I doubt that they would, do something dumb and just throw it in there? Not really. I really don't have any confidence left. I think if anything, they decide that they're going to keep the belt out of that feud, which would be a good idea. That you'd see a guy like Sheamus win the Royal Rumble, and honestly, I don't see any other choices unless it's going to be an Orton or a Punk. But I definitely want to see somebody else that hasn't main evented yet to step up and be in it. So that would be a really good idea. What feud that we haven't seen yet could be a good future? And the example that the British Fist gave was Punk versus The Miz. It would be really good. I think I'm going to one-up you, though. Alex Riley versus Cody Rhodes. Haven't seen it yet. Would love to see it. I think if Cody Rhodes should drop that strap to anybody in due time, it would be an Alex Riley. It would really, do a lot for him, too. What wrestlers in the current company or development do I see as the future main event guys in the next 5 years? This is the last question, so I'm going to give this a good solid answer. In the next 5 years, if they don't try to make Wade Barrett, Cody Rhodes, Miz, Del Rio, Alex Riley, Dolph Ziggler, and even Mason Ryan, people that are in that title scene, people that have held the belt, then they've dropped the ball with every single one of them. And because 5 years is a long time, guys, especially when they only have 1 month, or even, in Christian's case, 2-day title reigns. You can do a lot with that. So those guys that I just mentioned, Wade Barrett, Cody Rhodes, Miz, Del Rio, Alex Riley, Dolph Ziggler, and Mason Ryan, they need time to have their push. I think that they could be the future main event squad. And I think that that's enough people so that it wouldn't be the same people all the time. Like one John Cena or one Randy Orton that we're seeing now. Thank you very, very much for tuning into this. If you have any more questions, please drop them my way. I was very excited to do this. And just thank you very much out there, guys. Peace.